from the last session, wait a second, maybe I should do it like this. Screen. Okay, so from the last session, we're discussing the different antenna parameters. And just before we continue with other theoretical aspects, I just want to go over some slides that we put together. And as the next homework that you're going to have will be to simulate different antenna distributions using the functions that we're going to provide and that you're going to change the parameters to see what you obtain. So we have the code. With these codes, you can draw the field pattern, which it would be in the linear scale, the power pattern, which will be in fact the power pattern. Since the power, it is always proportional to the electric field square. So the first one is the projection of the magnitude of the electric field E. The second one is the square of E, so it is E squared. And then we have also the power pattern, the third option, which is the same as the second one, but now in decibel. Okay, the variables that we may change are traditionally, that we are going to generally change, will be the angle theta, which is the angle measured with respect to the z-axis, and the angle phi, which is the angle on the xy plane with respect to the x-axis. And theta can change from 0 to 180 and phi from 0 to 360. Now, this is the code that you can implement or that you can use. And from here, you can notice that you can change the angle increments of how much you're going to change the angles, the subsequent angles, angle theta and phi. And of course, smaller the delta theta and delta phi, which are the bottom side of the page on the left-hand side. Smaller these angle increments, a higher angular resolution you can obtain, because you can see a smoother changing of the electric field components. So this is again, well, the code it's somewhat long. You can go over these codes, and what you might have to go over or to check is you may have to figure out actually which are the key lines in the code that do the simulation. Okay, this is quite a few. Okay, no. Okay, so here we have a field pattern, which is shown in a linear scale. This would be the cross-sectional view of the same pattern that we saw in the previous slide, only that here we have removed some angles so that you can see cross-sections of the field pattern. Okay, so here we have the polar pattern. So in your assignment, you're going to submit to change different parameters of the antennas, and you're going to submit a PowerPoint which is going to look like this. This is again the power pattern in linear scale. Sorry, cross-sectional polar pattern, power pattern in decibels, cross-sectional view of the decibels polar pattern. Now, if we compare these, actually, the power pattern, I think we also did this one from the theoretical aspect. The power in decibel is the logarithmic scale of the power, because we know that each time we have the power, we just calculate the logarithmic base 10 and we multiply it by 10. So this would be the logarithmic view, but multiplied by a factor of 10. Okay, it's not pure logarithm. Okay, so you add another order 10 to the power 1 to the complete pattern. Directivity functions that can be used. So these are, we have also the polarization patterns. And now in the polarization patterns, these are the major aspects. And here, for example, you can see, you can also construct GIFs using these functions. So here you can see, in fact, how the polarization is evolving as a function of Z. So the propagation is along the Z-axis, which you can see that this means that the wave will be propagating along the direction to the right, and the orthogonal directions X and Y of the propagation direction is the plane where we can measure the electric field and the magnetic field. So the E field, it is shown in here. Wait a second. So you have a component of the EX and EY, and X in this case is shown pointing up, and the right-hand rule also confirms these directions. So if you take the cross product of X and Y, you're going to the Z direction, which is propagating somewhat to your right. Okay. So this is, and we notice that for this specific component of the electric field, which is along the EX and the EY, the polarization, and assuming that EX and EY, they are equal to each other, so you can see, in fact, there are these black lines which are pointing which are measured for a fixed time. You see now? So, okay, I'm just asking for, you have to look for these black lines which are somewhat between 0 and 2. Okay, between 0 and 2, you have these indicators which show how the three components of the electric field change. Three components, we mean EX, EY, and EX plus EY. And the summation EX plus EY shows the direction of the polarization. Here, this is another GIF. So now, the previous figure that we looked in the previous slide, this is the same as this one, only that this time you are standing in front of the wave and the wave is coming toward you. So this is the two-dimensional view of the previous slide. So you're just watching an electric field, the total electric field tip vector is drawing a straight line, confirming a linear polarization. Now, can someone just say something? A mund flas dikush thjesht duhet shikoj, a ju dëgjoj, a kam ndezur?
Po, profesor, ndezur është.
Okay, thanks. That's good. That's good. Duhet ngrit të rris pak zërin. Okay. So now the functions that you can use that we're going to provide to you is the propagation, polarization propagation. And okay, so this is all. And as we said, this will be one of the first homework assignment. Now let's go back to the okay, let's continue. So we're discussing antenna parameters. Last time we were talking about the polarization, and the polarization, it was in fact the direction of the electric field, or the polarization of the wave. We know it is the direction of the electric field. The polarization of the emitted, radiated wave when it is sent away from the antenna. I think these parts we obtained. We can define a polarization of the wave radiated and the polarization of a wave which is received by the antenna. Polarization can be linear, circular, or elliptical. Rotation of a wave. So these are the way how we can represent the electric field and the magnetic field. The polarization, we covered this one the last time. So with respect to the polarization, we just write the E and the H, or the electric and the magnetic field. We set Z equal to 0. It will make things much more easier to visualize them. And then we can vary the time omega t, assuming the time is on the increasing method. And as it is increasing, we can observe how the tip of the electric field is going to move. Now we can move here fast because these are actually, let's have for this for a moment. Linear polarization, it is when either one of the orthogonal direction x or y are completely zero. That means that in the first case we have the polarization along the x-axis because the EY it's null, it's zero. In the second case we have the polarization along the y-axis. In the third case we have the linear polarization, but now this time EX and EY, they are different from zero, but they are both with a phase difference of n pi, where n can be 0, n can be 2, which means that it will still be 0. So whenever there is a phase difference by given an integer number times 180, that will produce a linear polarization. Circular polarization, now the components of the orthogonal directions on the plane orthogonal to the direction of the k vector. So if we have any k vector, we have a plane which is perpendicular to the propagation. Now, the electric field, its projection on the plane, we used to also call this one as a constant phase plane. Okay, so it's just as the waves propagate in this direction, we're talking about this plane, and the projection of this plane of Ex and Ey, they have to be on the same magnitude. Okay, and then there should be also a specific phase difference. This would be still the circular wave. We have the right-hand side, which would be the clockwise, counterclockwise would be the left-hand side wave, depending how it propagates. Here we have the elliptical polarization. It is a generalization of the circular polarization, just that in this case, the magnitude along the two orthogonal directions, they don't have to be equal. Okay, they can be different, and we can obtain an elliptical pattern. Good. Now here we have a couple of examples of how linear polarization can be considered. Here the initial electric field it has two components, 2 and 3. This might be a little counterintuitive. X is the pointing up, Y is pointing to your right, and from here we can observe that we have a linear polarization. Here we have a different type of polarization. We have two components along the X and Y, where the component along the Y, it is has a phase difference, and this phase difference is equal to pi over 2, as you can see in the second line of this slide. Now, having that drawing, what we can do is that those components for the Ex and the Ey, we can just set an increasing omega t, and we can observe that the electric field vector, the tip of the electric field vector, starting from let's say when Ex is maximum, we can observe the tip rotates counterclockwise, as this drawing is showing. Okay. Now, when we talk about the polarization, we have an important parameter, which is the PLF, or a polarization loss factor, which occurs in antennas. And the polarization of the receiving antennas, in fact, it's not always the same with the polarization of the incoming incident wave. And now, if this is the case, then we could get we call this one polarization mismatch. Okay, because the antenna, it has a geometrical construct, or it has a relative orientation of the receiving components, and but we never know. Well, we never know. We could predict it. We never know what would be the polarization of the incoming wave. If in the case they are not in phase, let's say if the polarizations are not the same, we can obtain a polarization mismatch. The amount of power extracted by the antenna from the incoming signal, we're talking now about the receiving antenna, okay, will not be maximum because there is some polarization loss. The polarization loss factor, it is in fact equal to the amplitude, or let's say the square of the scalar product of two unit vectors. Okay, it's not that difficult. So we have the direction, the polarization of the incoming wave is from some signal which is generated. It has a unit vector which is defining this direction, and there is also the polarization of the receiving antenna, which might be a different angle. Now, the dot product between these two unit vectors is going to produce a cosine value, which is a cosine of the angle between these two values. So that is straightforward. And you might also predict that in the case when the polarization of the incoming wave is orthogonal with respect to the polarization of the antenna, then the complete power will be lost, because cosine 90 will be equal to 0. So it looks like the PLF is any value between 0 and 1. And PLF, like many different parameters of the antennas, it can be described also in terms of using the units of decibels. In this case, we have the logarithmic base 10 of 1 is equal to it's equal to 0, and the logarithmic base 10 of 0, it's equal to minus infinity. So we just have to remember that how the logarithmic function looks like, right? So this is x. This is logarithm of x. So then this means that if here we have the value of 1, we have to read the value in the y, which is going to be equal to 0. And logarithmic of 0, that means that we have to read, we have to go down. We get in decibels, it will be a minus infinity. Now here we just show once again, this is the unit vector showing the polarization of the wave, and the unit vector showing the polarization of the antenna, rho A. The angle is psi p. Now, we can use the antenna polarization, we can consider the antenna polarization in the transmitting mode, and we have also the polarization of the incident wave. And in here, we can see that the PLF, the polarization loss factor, it can be analyzed whenever we have a clockwise polarization, counterclockwise polarization between the respective directions of the wave and of the antenna. Now this parameter, we can also consider a new parameter which is called the polarization efficiency, and this polarization efficiency is defined as the ratio of the power received by an antenna from a given plane wave of arbitrary polarization. So the ratio of this power received by the antenna to the power that would be received by the same antenna from a plane wave of the same power, flux, density, and direction of the propagation. But this time, the state of polarization has been adjusted for a maximum received power. Now, this component, which is the polarization efficiency, it is very similar to the PLF that we discussed in the previous slides. Now, this polarization efficiency, this would be equal to the length E dot product with incident electric field square of this divided by L square divided also by the magnitude of E square. So both of these are powers, because we know that the power, it is always proportional to the square of the electric field intensity. And now these values that we see here, we have the polarization efficiency, we have the vector effective length, and we have also the incident electric field vector. Now, it is whenever we look at these expressions, we can also just remember that the unit of electric field intensity, it is volt divided by meter, and the length, it's measured in meters. So if we multiply the unit of the electric field with the unit of the length scale, you might expect that in the denominator and the numerator, we have units of volts. So this is going to look something like volt square divided by volt square. So this parameter, this polarization efficiency, it is a unitless value. Now, anything or dimensionless, anything which is dimensionless, we can also define the decibel, the quantity described also in units of decibels. So the second parameter, we have not discussed this one in detail. We're just giving this definition right now for the vector effective length, but this describes the polarization characteristics of an antenna. Here we have an example. So in this example, we just have the incident electric field, which has a polarized electric field pointing along the x-axis, and we have also the polarization of the antenna. The polarization of the antenna, apparently, it is pointing both along the x and along the y. So in this case, if we want to find the polarization loss factor, we know that we're going to calculate we're just going to multiply to take the scalar product between the E wave and E antenna. Okay, and if we do that, as we can see in the solution part, we have to calculate first the unit vector, which denotes the polarization of the antenna. We know that the unit vectors are always equal to, so just, I know we all remember this, but for any vector r, the unit vector along the r, which can also be denoted like this, will be equal to R divided by the magnitude of R. And in this case, for any vector E, the unit vector of this electric field, we divide it by the magnitude of E. So in this case, if we have AX plus AY, the magnitude will be something like square root of 2. So we can correctly check that the rho A, actually it's the Greek rho letter, and we also have the polarization of the wave, rho W, which is AX. And now we calculate the dot product between these two vectors, and we take the square, and what we obtain is polarization loss factor equal to 0.5. It's a half. And then we can also calculate the decibel unit. So we have a 3 decibel loss. So we have a 3 decibel loss in the extracted power because the polarization of the incoming wave, which is not aligned with the polarization of the antenna. If the polarization of the incoming wave is orthogonal, I think we talked about this one also a couple of slides before, then we have no power extracted by the antenna at all. So that means that the loss factor will be 0 or minus infinite decibels. Now here we have another example. We are considering a wave, a circularly polarized wave, which is radiated by an antenna, and it's traveling inwards in a radial direction at an angle theta phi. And it is impinging on the right-hand circularly polarized receiving antenna placed at the origin. So in this case, we are assuming that we have X, Y, Z, but we are considering the spherical coordinate system, where here we have the R, and we have also a wave which is pointing, so the direction of the wave. So let's denote this one with a propagation vector k, and the electric field vector will be orthogonal to these. And here we have a receiver antenna. Okay, so we can assume like a horn antenna. Sometimes, horn antenna is something which is like the same way as a horn is. So this is the receiving antenna. This is the wave which is approaching, and both these two. So we have to consider now two directions of the polarization. We are given that the polarization of the incident wave is given by A theta minus J A phi. So if we try to visualize this one, it looks like we have, of course, it's going to have so since the wave is approaching with decreasing R, we are going to expect let me try for a moment. So, because we remember that in the spherical coordinate system, this is AR, and the A theta is going to be perpendicular to this direction. So this is the A theta, and A phi is going to be perpendicular to these two. So we try to draw this as best as we could. So it looks like the same way that we have an approaching wave, and so if you look up, we're going to see a vector which is going to point from north to south, which will be the direction of A theta, and we might expect also a projection of the electric field, which is pointing, let's say, from west to east. Okay, so you can also try to visualize it this way. And we have the polarization of the incident wave is given, and in this case, wait a second. Determine the polarization loss factor. So this is the polarization of the antenna. We are given here the rho A, and the polarization of the wave is given here in this slide as rho V. So again, similar to the previous case, to the previous example. All we need to do is that we need to calculate the dot product or the scalar product between these two unit vectors. And once we do that, we notice that we have the loss here is equal to 0 decibels. Okay, so this means that in this case we have the polarization of the incoming wave is completely matches with the polarization of the antenna. So we have no loss at all. One thing that we may notice is that you can really see that the complex part, or at least one of the components, one is minus J, the other one is plus J. So this is something that you might often expect this one. So this component, this complex component of these unit vectors, you might often expect to see it like, and we know that in the circuit theory analysis or equivalency, we know that the reactance or any ohmic resistance, which is not coming because of a resistor, we call this reactance. Okay, which we have often denoted this one as XA. Now, if we have an incoming wave and an accept receiving antenna, we are going to have complete match or full match, which would correspond to 0 losses when the XA, it is different sign. So if we have a negative sign between the wave and the antenna, then you might expect, usually you're going to expect no loss, as you can see in here. Okay, so those polarizations are both clockwise. So this is one way to talk about this one. So we call this one, they're both clockwise, even though we have this negative sign in the complex component, because one of them is incoming, which is the wave, the other one is the receiving, being the antenna. Now here we see a wave which has a clockwise polarization, and we have you have an antenna which is clockwise, and we have a wave which is counterclockwise. In this case, we notice that the unit vector describing these two directions, they are the same, but since they are traveling, or assume they are traveling in different directions, one is clockwise, the other is counterclockwise. That means that the loss factor, it is maximum. So you lose everything. So the power which is transmitted or received from the antenna is going to be 0. Okay, so this is completely different to this previous example. So this is something that we should keep in mind. And the loss factor for transmitting and receiving antennas, this is how we can visualize them. We can have one case where the antenna and the wave are completely aligned, which is the first case. In the middle, we have a mismatch by an angle of psi, and then we can have a complete mismatch, which means that they're purely orthogonal, and then we lose all of the power. Now, PLF for transmitting and receiving linear antennas. Here, these were aperture antennas. Okay, so we're going to talk more in details regarding these different types of antennas. These are aperture antennas. These are receiving linear antennas. So linear antennas, you can assume this one. So the aperture antenna, it would be an antenna which is a horn antenna, which is receiving a signal or a wave in a solid angle. Okay, which means that you're going to have an aperture and try to find an. Okay, so I'm trying to find an object. So this would be an antenna which receives waves from a specific solid angle. But now this would be an aperture. And receiving linear antennas, this would be like a half wavelength antenna, which would be described as a line, and this is going to accept signals. Again, design. Okay. Now this part, this is just a repetition of how the examples of circularly polarized antennas. Now here we have a very interesting design of the elliptically polarized antenna. Now we call this antenna an elliptically polarized because this can easily be, this is also the generalized case. In case the two components which are receiving the signals and the way where the signals are received are from the left side, from your right side of the monitor. And in this case, depending on we can also be very careful when we obtain, when we receive the signals, because if we want sometimes to get a specific phase difference between the two orthogonal field components, which can be radiated, what can be done is that one of the dipole antennas can be shorter or longer. Okay, so these line components which are shown over there, just by changing the length, for example, a change in the length scale of the two orthogonal directions. So you can assume we are talking about length scales. We're talking about if these two dimensions are not the same. So if one of these is made a quarter of a wavelength shorter than the other, then we are going to obtain a phase difference between these two components. And now, just in order to visualize a little bit this discussion of the wavelength, I think you all can predict what is the wavelength of the wave that we might be operating with. So if we have a signal, for example, this is just a reminder. I know that you remember this one very well, but traditionally we might consider the following. If we have a communication using 1 gigahertz level of the frequencies, we are talking about length scales in the order of 1 meter. Okay, so it is easy to construct an antenna which is shorter or longer by a quarter of a wavelength. So if the wavelength is 1 meter, that means that we can construct antenna wires or components which have a difference of 25 centimeters from each other. So one wire that you can pick for your antenna, it can have a specific length. This could be one wire which is going to have to be a linear antenna, and the other component will be, this is 25 centimeters. You either add 25 here and you construct a second wire, or you subtract 25 and you can make an antenna which has this component. You can cut it like this. So this was the complete antenna, or one of the wires. You subtract 25. This is the antenna that we are talking about. Maybe this line or this line linear antenna has to be shifted in the middle, but this will make your antenna, or this will be the reasonable, acceptable length scales for an antenna. And just as a reminder, we know that the wavelength is equal to the speed of light divided by the frequency. And this one, we're talking about 3 times 10 to the power 8 divided by the frequency, which would be, let's say, 1 gigahertz. What is 1 gigahertz? It's 10 to the power 9. So in this case, we have 3 times, you can correct me, 3 times 10 to the power minus 1. So this is 0.3 meters. So apparently this is 30 centimeters. So a wavelength of 30 centimeters, then this means that we have to make up antenna circuit components which are shorter or longer by an order of 7.5 centimeters. Okay. So now, if we make this, one is shorter or longer, this will provide right-hand rotation, and the other one will provide left-hand rotation of the wave. Now, based on the definition of the wave transmitted and received by an antenna, the polarization of an antenna in the receiving mode is related somehow to the polarization in the transmitting mode. Okay, so in the same plane of polarization, the polarization ellipses, they have the same axial ratio and the same sense of polarization and the same spatial orientation. Since the senses of polarization and spatial orientation are specified by viewing the polarization ellipses in the respective directions in which they are propagating, one should note that although their senses of polarization are the same, they would appear to be opposite if both waves are viewed in the same direction. So this is something we discussed before when we said that the polarization direction of the wave and the antenna, you might see a negative sign in there, because we are seeing them from the same, we are measuring them using the same coordinate system. Okay, so the point 2A, which is mentioned here, you may read this again later, and also you can read it from the book, but the sense of the polarization can be the same, but they would appear as if they are opposite because now you have a receiving antenna and a transmitting antenna. So that's why if you stand in front of the wave, you're going to see a clockwise wave if you are receiving, and it will be at the same time counterclockwise if we are transmitting. Their tilt angles are such that they are the negative of one another with respect to a common reference, which is also easily understood. Okay, so it's just the same, the issue of if you're looking from the, if you have two observers, I am with another colleague, he is emitting using a transmitting antenna, I'm receiving using a receiving antenna. The angles that I measure for the polarization of the wave will be with a negative sign with respect to some z-axis. Okay, so if you define, or we are communicating together, I have a z-axis, I measure a specific angle theta, you measure the negative of that. Now, most of the time, I mean, usually or more commonly, the polarization of antenna is defined in the transmitting mode. Okay, and so we are assuming that we calculate the angles with respect to some reference, only assuming that it is in transmitting mode and not in receiving mode. And the polarization loss must always be taken into account in the link calculation design of a communication system, because sometimes it might be a very critical factor. Link calculations of communication systems for outer space exploration are very stringent because of limitation in spacecraft weight. In such cases, the power is a limiting consideration. The design must take into account all loss factors to ensure a successful operation of the system. Now, at this moment, let's not forget that we are just discussing the proper signal reception, or the most efficient reception of the signal from an incoming wave, just because of the polarization factor. Okay, just because the losses which can be originated because of the polarization mismatch. We know that there are also other losses which can happen in an antenna. So since in this slide we're talking about the design, here we're just focused on the design regarding the polarization directions, and not in the losses which can happen because of the impedance mismatches between the transmission lines, between the wave generator, and etc. So overall, design is going to include several aspects, where the current one is one of them. Now, we just mentioned that we had the loss because the polarization mismatch. Now we go back to some aspect which we have mentioned before, which is the impedance. And we talked before that the perfect zero loss, it's obtained whenever we have an equal impedance between two different medium. Okay, so we have a barrier or a line which is separating two different mediums. If the impedance on the left and on the right is equal, then we have no loss as you are passing through these two. A common understanding regarding these two could be the following. We have a chalk, we have a pen, they are different thickness. Whenever the wave is traveling from the chalk to this pen, since the impedance is different, we're going to have some wave being reflected backwards, which is interpreted as a loss. Now, input impedance is defined the impedance presented by the antenna at its terminals, or the ratio of the voltage to current at a pair of terminals. Now, since, yes, or the ratio of the appropriate components of the electric to magnetic fields at a point. Input impedance is the value of a pair of terminals, which are the input terminals of antennas. So now we know that impedance is measured in ohms, okay, so in the units of the resistance. So this is why we say that it is a ratio between the voltage to the, or the voltage to current. So that's this will be the input impedance. An antenna system, in this case, this is an antenna in the transmitting mode, because we have an antenna, it has a generator. The antenna starts at the terminals between A and B, and the wave will be radiated to your right. Now, this antenna, this can be considered equivalently as if it has a Thevenin equivalent, considering these circuit components, where denoted with G, it is the wave generator, okay? And ZG that we see here in the first figure, it is the impedance of the generator. Just give 1 second. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Fine. Okay, so on the left side we have the generator, on the right side we have the antenna, and of course these two components, they have different different impedances. We can see that in this Thevenin equivalent, on the left side the generator, on the right side we have losses because of radiating factor, and we have also this effect which the reactance XA. Now this XA and XG, these are two important components which we mentioned those, and we said that sometimes they need to have a negative sign with respect to each other. At the same time, this antenna design, when you consider the losses or when you consider the impedances, it has also an analysis which is a Norton equivalent. Now here we have another antenna. It's an antenna which is now in the receiving mode. And now before we had a wave which was radiated. Now this is an incident wave. And this incident wave, the moment this one impinges onto the antenna, it will induce a voltage Vt, which is the equivalent to the voltage Vg. Vg, this is the generator, so it's the generator which generates the signal. But now we have a wave which is picked up by an antenna. Immediately we can measure a potential difference. And I think we have talked before some time together. Actually, maybe you have seen me in the class in the previous session where we just came out. We said that this is an oscilloscope with some frequency, operates at some frequency. And now, if we just, this is an antenna. The moment the signal comes up into here, we measure a voltage which is experimentally measurable by this device. So these voltages are induced whenever we have an incoming wave, and fortunately and unfortunately at the same time, the incoming incident waves, the intensity, it is non-zero. Okay, so we are always having this flux into our biological systems by continuous flux of waves, and it could even have positive effects. This is a different aspect. It's not always negative, but once you have anything which looks like an antenna, which this is an antenna in itself, okay, but this is it has to be conductive for sure, then this can be picked up because the voltage is measured. And these waves, most of the time, they are as a function of time, which makes possible for us to measure a signal as a function of time. Now, this wave, this antenna in the receiving mode, it has the same way. It is also the Thevenin equivalent, but now this time the current is flowing from the wave which is coming outside, and it is coming onto the. And now we use the notation Vt, which is for the voltage which is created the moment a signal is received. This is the Norton equivalent. And now, actually, this is the electromagnetic field power density. In these two slides, we know that since we receive a voltage, or since a voltage is created, which can be measured in the system, this receiving part, it has also some inner resistance. Because of this inner resistance, we're going to have voltage times a current. If we multiply these two together, we're going to have the power, which is measured in watts. So we have some power level which can be received by an antenna. Here we have a couple of examples where we can have an infinitesimal dipole antenna, and the relevant resistances and reactances, which could be for these types of antennas, are given with these expressions here. But we are going to derive these expressions, or we are going to see these expressions again when you go to chapter 4. And but from here we can also see that we can have an infinitesimally small, or at least that's what we call dipole, and anything which is smaller than the wavelength divided by 50, this can be considered in terms of geometrical length scales as infinitesimal dipoles. We can also have half wavelength dipoles, which, I mean, based on the name, it's a half wavelength. The length scale of this antenna would be half to the wavelength. So if we have 1 gigahertz, the wavelength would be 30 centimeters. So an antenna can be any component which is 15 centimeters. So a cell phone is approximately 15 centimeters. So this serves very effectively as a half wavelength dipole. And we've talked also last time saying that on the back side of the cell phones, we have printed antennas, which are conductive lines, which behave like linear antennas. And if you remove the coverage of your cell phones, you will not be able to receive a phone call because you have removed the antenna of your device. Now, here, these are actually the Thevenin equivalents. So when we talk about the transmitting wave, the equations that we will have to deal with will be something like this. So the complete impedance of the antenna, it is going to be described by an RA, which is purely the resistance of the antenna, plus XA. And now the resistance of the antenna, it is composed of two different losses. So we add these two resistances here that we have talked about this also in the previous sessions. We have also, this is the impedance of the antenna. We have also the impedance of the generator. And the VG is a peak generator voltage. And in here, the current which is generated, it will be equal to the VG, which is this voltage, which is in this circuit or in this equivalent circuit, VG divided by ZA plus ZG. So we divide this whole voltage, which is producing the signals, will be divided by the complete impedance of the system. Now, if you like, we can have a short break. Do you have any question?